Welcome to Real USA. We welcome you from the city of New York. Thank you for tuning in and appreciating the stories of the United States through the unique Telesur lens. I'm Karina Cartagena. At the beginning of the year, Real USA traveled to Virginia following a chemical spill in the Elk River. There, we met close to 300,000 residents of West Virginia who had been left without water. Now, the neighbors have had to face a further spill in the same area, where it is estimated that more than 100,000 gallons of carbon might have contaminated the Kanawha River in Charleston.
Empty streets and empty shops in Charleston, West Virginia this January. With the water supply contaminated by a chemical used for washing coal, the area's water was unusable for anything except flushing toilets. So businesses had to close and residents had to rely on bottled water for washing, cooking and cleaning. The river's since been contaminated with yet another spill, this time of coal slurry. Coal mining is the lifeblood of West Virginia. It's a source of pride for the state, and the fuel provides about 40% of America's energy, as well as most of the jobs and incomes in the area. But that money comes with environmental costs. Burning coal is responsible for 37% of US carbon dioxide emissions, and the industry's size also means polluting accidents, such as the West Virginia spills, are more likely. The leak that caused the water crisis here in Charleston originated at a business involved in the coal industry, which sustains the whole area. But after the upheaval that was caused, some here are asking whether West Virginia should diversify away from coal. Charleston's Mayor, Danny Jones, says the Obama administration's new regulations on power plant CO2 emissions mean the area is already suffering economically.
Coal's been part of our culture here for a long time, but the anti-coal people not only are winning, I'd say they've won. And if you go in southern West Virginia, you'll see the effects of it, because people that made $100,000 a year working in those mines they're on welfare.
When jobs are being lost, people are...
But experts say no more coal doesn't have to mean no more jobs.
Fortunately, there are jobs in the region. There's a lot of potential for agriculture, for instance, also alternative energy production. There's a lot of opportunity there, and some groups have worked very hard to make that a possibility.
We are not in any competition against coal, but we are looking towards the future.
This is one such group. Matthew Gilliam, a former coal miner, is now an electrician at Gilliam Solar. It's looking to build on West Virginia's energy heritage by installing solar panels for local residents. The scheme, run by local organisation Sustainable Williamson, aims to get former miners involved in new, more long-term industries.
We've been able to work with the community on
whether it's agriculture and farmers markets, sustainable construction programmes, or even running tours for visitors. Groups like these have other ideas for moving away from coal.
We anticipate that we will create a greater diversified energy portfolio and continue to be an energy leader. Because we are in this coal region limited with the number of job opportunities, we see this as a way to re-educate and retrain skilled labor.
It may be too late for some of the more destructive results of mining in West Virginia to be reversed, but groups like Matthews are hoping it's not too late to save the livelihoods and futures of West Virginia's people. LORNA SHADICK, Telesur, West Virginia.
The contamination of the River Elk has generated severe consequences for the local economy. Lack of access to water means that daily life for the residents of Charleston is now extremely limited, whilst commercial activity has been paralyzed. Let's take a look.
When Susan Given and Mark Adams opened a small diner a year ago, they never imagined they'd be relying on charity to provide them with plastic plates, knives and forks. But using crockery and cutlery that doesn't have to be washed up was the only way to get the health department to reopen the premises after a chemical spill into the nearby Elk River turned off their mains water. Susan estimated that 5 days of closure had already led to about $5,000 of losses and tons of wasted food. But it was the stress on her staff that most concerned her.
I have several employees not getting paid that is extremely stressful, knowing that people aren't getting to take care of their families. It breaks my heart. I want to say, come in and let me pay you, but unfortunately I can't afford to do so until I have income coming in. You know, I want to bring them in, and that's what I'm going to end up doing, is bringing them in and probably doing a big old IOU until we can get the doors open and get them rolling again, because I know they need it.
Susan's business isn't the only one suffering. Dining is at the heart of Charleston's tourist industry, with more than a dozen restaurants in and around the affected area. The tap water shut-off turned the city centre into a ghost town. And even though these restaurant workers at Charleston's main downtown mall are now back on the job, they say it'll be hard to make up for almost a week's lost pay.
My landlord asked me yesterday, was there going to be a problem with this month's rent because of, you know, and I said, well, let me call you tomorrow and we'll see.
There's a lot of money for the rent, for the gas money, for the all kind of bill, you know, bill, all kind of bill. I'm quite worried about that.
You got to pay your bills and stuff like that, you know. It puts me $200 or $300 behind, you know. So now I've got to figure out a way to get caught back up.
Businesses here in Charleston city centre have had to close for days because of the water crisis. It's lost them thousands of dollars in revenue, and for the staff of laundrettes, restaurants, hairdressers, dry cleaners, it's left them high and quite literally dry. Pastor Matthew Watts has brought political, business and community leaders to his church to discuss setting up a fund to help low-wage workers meet their bills in the days and weeks after the water crisis.
We live close to the people. We know this neighborhood. We know that this is one of the poorest communities in West Virginia, through the lowest census tracts in this county. And so while the government is trying to figure it out, we think there's things that we can do to mobilize the community to get interest, and so that things will move at a faster pace than what things normally move in situations like this.
He says the fund won't be a blank cheque, and workers will have to get their employer to verify the amount of time they missed. But he's keen to support a section of the community he feels is often overlooked.
So it's really what I call sort of the backbone of any city, those working people that work in the service industry and that really enable the gears of a city to actually work. And you kind of take them for granted. Many of them make minimum wage or just above minimum wage. Many work without benefits. And so they really, you know, a week pay is significant.
Small businesses like these in Charleston's city centre mall will find it hard enough to recoup and recover after almost a week of losses. But it's the men and women who normally keep them running who could end up suffering the most from an industrial accident they played no part in. LORNA SHADICK, Telesur, Charleston.
According to official figures in the city of New York, unemployment has dropped. However, the number of people who struggle to survive on a minimum wage is on the increase. The gap between rich and poor continues to grow every day. William Denslow offers us this report.
Being a single mother is no easy task, especially when you're raising 4 boys alone on the minimum wage in New York's public housing system.
Enough for the minimum, but mostly you need more than just the minimum.
For Santos, paying the bills is a constant worry. She's worked several different jobs, but is barely keeping up with the $660 rent each month. With concerns over the mold in the bathroom and 4 growing boys living in a single room, she wants a bigger place. And that means making more money. Already relying on food pantries to help feed her kids, she says the minimum wage of $8 an hour is too low. To raise more cash, she's planning on taking a second job.
As a single mother, I want to give the best for my kids, I'm waiting to hear about a move, a transfer, but they tell me I will have to pay more, so... But you know, as the children are growing, you need a bigger space.
Staff at LSA Family Health Service say numbers of people relying on their food pantry keeps rising. Employment is now at higher levels than before the recession, but with many of these being minimum wage jobs, people here aren't surprised numbers aren't dropping.
Right now, the minimum wage is, you can still be making at poverty level and be making minimum wage if you have a family, so that's obscene.
Minimum wage is a factor, but James Parrott at the Fiscal Policy Institute says a growing income polarisation over the last 3 decades is a major reason for New York's high poverty levels. More of New York's poor may be finding work, but as the economy begins to improve, he says these gains are mostly going to the richest people.
The people in the middle and at the bottom are not seeing income gains that allow them to sustain the consumption that they need. So we've seen an increase in poverty levels. In New York City, we've seen a disturbing increase in homelessness.
In the last 3 years, Parrott says 95% of income growth has gone to the wealthiest 1%. Jobs may be up, but so are the number of people living in shelters.
It's nothing short of a tragedy for those families that are trying to exist in a shelter. It's particularly hard on the children.
The juices too, the cans.
Shelters and food pantries are vital for New York's poorest, but many feel firm government action is needed to effectively shelve poverty. That action is proving hard to come by, though. A recent bid to try and raise the federal minimum wage was blocked by Senate Republicans, a move that advocates for raising the minimum wage say denies a raise to 28 million hard-working Americans. William Denslow, Telesaur, New York.
Retail in the United States is a multi-million-dollar industry which has a lot of power in the city of New York. However, many of its workers who work part-time feel increasingly exploited.
House cleaning is often a thankless task, but for Maria Aguilar and Rosa Paliquibai, life is getting a lot better than it used to be.
In my previous job, I was earning $10 an hour, but in this new place, the cooperative, I can earn up to $15 to $20, and that's a big difference.
Before joining the Apple Eco Cleaning Cooperative, finding regular work in New York was tough going. And for Rosa, being a single mum made it even tougher. Both Maria and Rosa have been working at the co-op for over a year, and they say it's not just the wages that help. Because it's a worker-owned initiative, all employees have a say in the business, and that means learning new skills. And with these skills brings confidence. Maria says she couldn't use a computer before she joined, but now she helps run the company's finances. A skill that's helping her at home too.
Now, with a cooperative, I am learning about finances. And the truth is, I have bettered myself. It has been a significant change, and now I can spend more time with my children.
For thousands of New Yorkers, it remains a struggle to make ends meet. According to the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, nearly half of the city's population is poor or nearly poor. More jobs have been added to the economy since the recession, but many of these are low-paying. Cooperative advocates say it's why people are now looking for an alternative solution to help lift themselves out of poverty.
A lot of people in the community realize that traditional jobs were not leading to the outcomes that we wanted to see that would be good for families and that would be good for the economy of New York City itself.
Mobilizing resources. With each employee getting to vote on company affairs, the idea is to create greater worker empowerment. The hope is that translates to better wages and, in turn, a more prosperous community. There are currently about 300 cooperatives across the US, with around 25 in New York, but this number is set to grow. As part of New York's Mayor Bill de Blasio's plans to address inequality and what he calls the tale of two cities, he's pledged over $1 million in funding worker cooperatives. And as the gap between the rich and poor grows in America, some economists say schemes like these will continue to generate interest.
As long as we see, these abject economic failures in the private economy, there's going to be more openness to new ways of organizing business.
If worker cooperatives like this continue to grow in New York, economists like Parrott say they could have an influence on more traditional businesses too. With more competition, the hope for many would be that employers would be forced to up wages and improve conditions for existing workers. While experts say schemes like worker cooperatives won't address the unemployment problem overnight, both economists and politicians will be looking closely at initiatives like these to see if they can bring a lasting relief to some of those most in need. William Denslow, Telesur, New York.
One of the sectors to have been most affected by the economy recession that started in 2008 are the long-term unemployed. The work of Mary MacCarthy demonstrates that the longer one remains unemployed, the less attractive he or she is for prospective employers. A spiral that puts at risk not only the economy, but also quality of life for many citizens.
Ed Turner has been saying the same thing for the past 4.5 years.
My name is Ed Turner, and I'm looking for work.
Anthony, nice. He's at a job fair in the Denver suburbs, but after such a long stretch without a permanent job in his field, he doesn't have high hopes.
You get told no so often that it's kind of well, I go there because I know I'm going to hear no.
Financially, it's been devastating for his family.
We have had to declare bankruptcy. We lost our home.
And I was a quality control manager at Samsung.
And the cost is emotional, too.
Over time, you become depressed, and your feeling of self-worth is wrapped up in that.
This city resource center helps match the unemployed with employers.
This truly is our basic core level service, and it'll take you 5 to 10 minutes to create your profile.
But officials here admit that in a tight jobs market, older applicants are at a disadvantage.
We do see that older worker population coming in and finding a little more difficulty than you would at 25 or 35 or even 45.
Long months of unemployment lead many people to seek positions way below their skill level.
At this point, I'm a banquet server and a bartender doing that. I also have 2 master's degrees and I'm licensed as a banker. But in this economy, I'm really glad to make tips.
Employment counselors say their programs aim to help the long-term unemployed rebuild their self-confidence.
What we focus on the folks that are long-term unemployed is, let's look at your skills first. Are they up to date with what you need? Is there a current industry certificate that maybe you could go to some short-term training that would help you become more employable? We have internal workshops just on the basic job readiness stuff, right? Getting back into the workforce. Does your resume look like it needs to? Do you have a cover letter? Do you have a social media presence?
Ed Turner, meanwhile, keeps checking the job postings every day.
It looks like it's the same as it was yesterday. There's no new ones.
Here in Colorado and in many places across America, middle-class jobs with benefits remain hard to find. And it's a reality that doesn't look likely to change anytime soon. Mary MacCarthy for Telesur, Denver.
That's all from US Today. I'm Karina Cartagena. See you next time.